Shabbat Shalom, and thank you so much for joining us today here at Remnant House, the home of the strong and the very courageous. And today's scripture reading, we're going to be reading out of Genesis chapter 37, verse 1 through 40, verse 23. Zechariah 2:14 through 4 and verse 7. Matthew 1 through 6. And 16 through 25, and John 10:22 through 30. And Jacob dwelt in the land wherein his father was a stranger, in the land of Canaan. These are the generations of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brethren, and the lad was with the sons of Bilhah, and with the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought unto his father their evil report. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his brethren, because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a coat of many colors. And when his brethren saw that their father loved him more than all his brethren, they hated him, and could not speak peaceably unto him. And Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told it to his brethren, and they hated him yet the more. And he said unto them, Hear, I pray you, this dream which I have dreamed. For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf arose, and also stood upright. And behold, your sheaves stood round about, and made obeisance to my sheaf. And his brethren said unto him, Shalt thou indeed reign over us? Or shalt thou indeed have dominion over us? And they hated him yet the more for his dreams, and for his words. And he dreamed yet another dream, and told it his brethren, and said, Behold, I have dreamed a dream more, and behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me. And he told it to his father and to his brethren. And his father rebuked him, and said unto him, What is this dream that thou hast dreamed? Shall I and my mother and thy brethren indeed come to bow down ourselves to thee to the earth? And his brethren envied him, but his father observed the saying. And his brethren went to feed their father's flock in Shechem. And Israel said unto Joseph, Do not thy brethren feed the flock in Shechem? Come, and I will send thee unto them. And he said to him, Here am I. And he said to him, Go, I pray thee, see whether it be well with thy brethren, and well with the flocks, and bring me word again. So he sent him out of the vale of Hebron, and he came to Shechem. And a certain man found him, and behold, he was wandering in the field, and the man asked him, saying, What seekest thou? And he said, I seek my brethren. Tell me, I pray thee, where they feed their flocks? Tell me, I pray thee, where they feed their flocks. And the man said, They are departed hence, for I heard them say, Let us go to Dothan. And Joseph went after his brethren, and found them in Dothan. And when they saw him afar off, even before he came near unto them, they conspired against him to slay him. And they said one to another, Behold, this dreamer cometh. Come now, therefore, let us slay him, and cast him into some pit. And we will say, Some evil beast hath devoured him, and we will see what will become of his dreams. And Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands, and said, Let us not kill him. And Reuben said unto them, Shed no blood, but cast him into this pit that is in the wilderness, and lay no hand upon him, that he might rid him out of their hands, to deliver him to his father again. And it came to pass, when Joseph was come unto his brethren, that they stripped Joseph out of his coat of many colors that was on him. And they took him, and cast him into a pit, and the pit was empty, and there was no water in it. And they sat down to eat bread, and they lifted up their eyes and looked, and behold, a company of Ishmaelites came from Gilead, with their camels bearing spicery and balm and myrrh, going to carry it down to Egypt. And Yehudah said unto his brethren, What profit is it if we slay our brother and conceal his blood? Come, and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh. And his brethren were content. Then there passed by Midianites, merchantmen, and they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit, and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver. And they brought Joseph into Egypt. And Reuben returned unto the pit, and behold, Joseph was not in the pit, and he rent his clothes. And he returned to his brethren and said, the child is not, and I, whither shall I go? And they took Joseph's coat and killed a kid of the goats and dipped the coat in the blood. And they sent the coat of many colors, and they brought it to their father and said, this have we found, know not whether it be thy son's coat or no. Ugh. And he knew it, and said, it is my son's coat, an evil beast has devoured him. Joseph is without doubt rent in pieces. And Yaakov rent his clothes, and put sackcloth on his loins, and mourned for his son many days. And all his sons and all his daughters rose up to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. And he said, for I will go down into the grave unto my son mourning. Thus his father wept for him. And the Midianites sold him into Egypt unto Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh's, and captain of the guard. And it came to pass at that time that Yehudah went down from his brethren and turned into a certain Adulamite, whose name was Hira. And Yehudah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite, whose name was Shua, and he took her and went in to her. And she conceived and bare a son, and he called his name And she conceived again and bare a son, and she called his name Onan. And she yet again conceived and bare a son, and called his name Shelah. And he was at Shazib when she bare him. And Yehudah took a wife for his firstborn, whose name was Tamar. And Yehudah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of Yahuwah, and Yahuwah slew him. And Yehudah said unto Onan, go in unto thy brother's wife, and marry her, and raise up seed to thy brother. And Onan knew that the seed should not be his. And it came to pass, when he went in unto his brother's wife, that he spilled it on the ground, lest that he should give seed to his brother. And the thing which he did displeased Yahuwah, wherefore he slew him also. Then said Yehudah to Tamar his daughter-in-law, remain a widow at thy father's house, till Shelah my son be grown. For he said, lest peradventure he die also, as his brethren did. And Tamar went and dwelt in her father's house. And in the process of time, the daughter of Shua, Yehudah's wife, died. And Yehudah was comforted, and went up to the sheep shearers of Timnah, he and his friend Hira, the Adulamite. And it was told Tamar, saying, behold, thy father-in-law goeth up to Timnah to shear his sheep. And she put her widow's garments off from her, and covered her with a veil, and wrapped herself, and sat in an open place, which is by the way to Timnath. For she saw that Shelah was grown, and he was not given unto him to wife. And she was not given unto him to wife. And when Yehudah saw her, he thought her to be a harlot, because she had covered her face. And he turned unto her by the way, and said, go, I pray thee, let me come in unto thee. For he knew not that she was his daughter-in-law. And he said, what wilt thou give me, that thou mayest come in unto me? And he said, I will send thee a kid from the flock. And she said, wilt thou give me a pledge till thou send it? And he said, what pledge shall I give thee? And she said, thy signet, and thy bracelets, and thy staff that is in thine hand. And he gave it to her, and came in unto her, and she conceived by him. And she arose and went away, and laid by her veil from her, and put on the garments of her widowhood. And Yehudah sent the kid by the hand of his friend the Adulamite to receive the pledge from the woman's hand, but he found her not. And then he asked the men of that place, saying, where is the harlot that was openly by the wayside? And they said, there was no harlot in this place. And he returned to Yehudah and said, I cannot find her. And also the men of the place said that there was no harlot in this place. And Yehudah said, let her take it to her, lest we be shamed. Behold, I sent this kid, and thou hast not found her. And it came to pass about 3 months after, that it was told Yehudah, saying, Tamar thy daughter-in-law hath played the harlot, and also, behold, she is with child by whoredom. And Yehudah said, bring her forth, and let her be burnt. And when she was brought forth, she sent to her father-in-law, saying, by the men whose deeds are, am I with child? And she said, discern, I pray thee, whose are these, the signet, and bracelets, and staff? And Yehudah acknowledged them, and said, she hath been more righteous than I. because that I gave her not to Shelah my son. And he knew her again no more. And it came to pass in the time of her travail, that behold, twins were in her womb. And it came to pass, when she travailed, that the one put out his hand, and the midwife took and bound upon his hand a scarlet thread, saying, This came out first. And it came to pass that he drew back his hand, that, behold, his brother came out. And she said, How hast thou broken forth? This breach be upon thee. Therefore his name was called Pharez. And afterward came out his brother, that had the scarlet thread upon his hand, and his name was called Zerah. And Joseph was brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him of the hands of the Ishmaelites, which had brought him down thither. And Yahuwah was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man. He was in the house of his master the Egyptian. And his master saw that Yahuwah was with him, and that Yahuwah made all that he did to prosper in his hand. And Joseph found grace in his sight, and he served him. He made him overseer over his house, and all that he had he put it into his hand. And it came to pass from the time that he had made him overseer in his house, and over all that he had, that Yahuwah blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. And the blessing of Yahuwah was upon all that he had in the house and in the field. And he left all that he had in Joseph's hand, and he not aught he had, save the bread which he did eat. And Joseph was a goodly person, and well favored. And it came to pass after these things, that his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph, and she said, Lie with me. But he refused, and said unto his master's wife, Behold, my master wotteth not what it is with me in the house, and he hath committed all that he hath to my hand. There is none greater in this house than I, neither hath he kept back anything from me but thee, because thou art his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness, and sin against Elohim? And it came to pass, as she spoke to Joseph day by day, that he hearkened not unto her, to lie with her, or to be with her. And it came to pass about this time, that Joseph went into the house to do his business, and there was none of the men in the house there within. And she caught him by his garment, saying, Lie with me. And he left his garment in her hand, and fled, and got him out. And it came to pass, when she saw that he had left his garment in her hand, and was fled forth, that she called unto the men of the house, and spake unto them, saying, See, he hath brought in an Hebrew unto us to mock us. He came in unto me to lie with me, and I cried with a loud voice. And it came to pass, when he had heard it, when he heard that I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me, and fled, and got him out. And she said, and she laid up his garment by her until his Lord come home. And she spoke unto him according to these words, saying, The Hebrew servant which thou hast brought unto us came in unto me to mock me. And it came to pass, as I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me, and fled out. And it came to pass, when his master heard the words of his wife, which she spake unto him, saying, After this manner did the servant to me, that his wrath was kindled. And Joseph's master took him, and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were bound, and he was there in the prison. But Yahuwah was with Joseph, and showed him mercy, and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. And the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph's hand all the prisoners that were in the prison, and whatsoever he did there, he was the doer of it. The keeper of the prison looked not to anything that was under his hand, because Yahuwah was with him, and that which he did, Yahuwah made it to prosper. And it came to pass after these things, that the butler of the king of Egypt and his baker had offended their lord the king of Egypt. And Pharaoh was wroth against his two officers, against the chief of the butlers, and against the chief of the bakers. And he put them in ward in the house of the captain of the guard, into the prison, the place where Joseph was bound. And the captain of the guard charged Joseph with them, and he served them, and they continued a season inward. And they dreamed a dream, both of them, each man his dream in one night, each man according to the interpretation of his dream, the butler and the baker of the king of Egypt, which were bound in the prison. And Joseph came in unto them in the morning, and looked upon them, and behold, they were sad. And he asked Pharaoh's officers that were with him in the ward of his lord's house, saying, Wherefore look ye so sadly today? And they said unto him, We have dreamed a dream, and there is no interpreter of it. And Joseph said unto them, Do not interpretations belong to Elohim? Tell me them, I pray you. And the chief butler told his dream to Joseph, and said to him, In my dream, behold, a vine was before me, and in the vine were 3 branches, and it it was as though it budded, and her blossoms shot forth, and the clusters thereof brought forth ripe grapes. And Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes, and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and I gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. And Joseph said unto him, This is the interpretation of it. The 3 branches are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up thine head, and restore thee unto thy place, and thou shalt deliver Pharaoh's cup into his hand, after the former manner when thou wast butler. But think on me when it shall be well with thee, and show kindness, I pray thee, unto me, and make mention of me unto Pharaoh, and bring me out of this house. For indeed I was stolen away out of the land of the Hebrews, and here also have I done nothing that they should put me into the dungeon. When the chief baker saw that the interpretation was good, he said unto Joseph, I also was in a dream, and behold, I had 3 white baskets on my head, and in the uppermost basket was there all manner of baked meats for Pharaoh, and the birds did eat them out of the basket upon my head. And Joseph answered and said, This is the interpretation thereof. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Sarah lift up thy head from off thee, and shall hang thee in a tree, and the birds shall eat thy flesh from off thee. And it came to pass the 3rd day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, that he made a feast unto all his servants, and he lifted up the head of the chief butler and of the chief baker among his servants. And he restored the chief butler to his butlership again, and he gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. But he hanged the chief baker, as Joseph had interpreted to them. Yet did not the chief butler remember Joseph, but forgot him. Zechariah 2, 10 through 4, verse 7. Sing and rejoice, O daughter of Zion, for lo, I come, and will dwell in the midst of thee, saith Yahuwah. And many nations shall be joined to Yahuwah in that day, and shall be my people, and I will dwell in the midst of thee, and thou shalt know that Yahuwah of hosts has sent me unto thee. And Yahuwah shall inherit Yehudah his portion in the Holy Land, and shall choose Jerusalem again. Be silent, O flesh, before Yahuwah, for he is raised up out of his holy habitation. And he showed me Yahusha the high priest standing before the angel of Yahuwah, and Satan standing at his right hand to resist him. And Yahuwah said unto Satan, Yahuwah rebuke thee, O Satan. Even Yahuwah that hath chosen Jerusalem rebuke thee. Is not this a brand plucked out of the fire? Now Yahusha was clothed with filthy garments, and stood before the angel. And he answered and spake unto those that stood before him, saying, Take away the filthy garments from him. And unto him he said, Behold, I have caused thine iniquity to pass from thee, and I will clothe thee with change of raiment. And I said, Let them set a fair mitre upon his head. So they set a fair mitre upon his head, and clothed him with garments. And the angel of Yahuwah stood by. And the angel of Yahuwah protested unto Yahusha, saying, Thus saith Yahuwah of hosts, If thou wilt walk in my ways, if thou wilt keep my charge, then thou shalt also judge my house, and shalt also keep my courts, and I will give thee places to walk among these that stand by. Hear now, O Yahusha, the high priest, thou and thy fellows that sit before thee, for they are men wondered at. For behold, I will bring forth my servant the branch, Netzarim. For behold, the stone that I have laid before Yahusha, upon one stone shall be 7 eyes. Behold, I will engrave the graving thereof, saith Yahuwah of hosts, and I will remove the iniquity of the land in 1 day. In that day, saith Yahuwah of hosts, shall you call every man his neighbor under the vine and under the fig tree. And the angel that talked with me came again and waked me as a man that wakened out of his sleep, and said unto me, What seest thou? And I said, I have looked, and behold a candlestick all of gold, and a bowl upon the top of it, and his 7 lamps thereon, and the 7 pipes of the 7 lamps, which are upon the tops thereof, and 2 olive trees by it, one upon the right side of the bowl, and the other upon the left side. thereof. And so I answered and spake unto the angel that talked with me, saying, What are these, my Lord? Then the angel that talked with me answered and said unto me, Knowest thou not what these be? And I said, No, my Lord. Then he answered and spake unto me, saying, This is the word of Yahuwah unto Zerubbabel, saying, Not by power, not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith Yahuwah of hosts. Who art thee, O great mountain, before Zerubbabel? Thou shalt become a plain, and he shall bring forth the headstone thereof, with shoutings, crying, Grace, grace unto it. Matthew chapter 1, verses 1 through 6, and then 16 through 25. In the book of the generations of Yahushua HaMashiach, the son of David, the son of Abraham, Abraham begat Isaac, Isaac begat Yaakov, Yaakov begat Judas and his brethren. Yehudah begat Phares, and Azara of Tamar, and Phares begat Esrom, and Esrom begat Aram, and Aram begat Aminadab, Aminadab begat Naasam, and Naasam begat Shalman. Salman begat Boaz of Rachab, Boaz begat Obed of Ruth, and Obed begat Yesse. Yesse begat David the king, and David the king begat Solomon, of her that had been the wife of Urias. Now, verse 16. And Yaakov begat Joseph, and the husband of Mary, of whom was born Yahushua, who was called Mashiach. So all the generations from Abraham to David are 14 generations, and from David unto the carrying away into Babylon are 14 generations, and from the carrying on away into Babylon unto Mashiach are 14 generations. Now the birth of Yahushua HaMashiach was on this wise. When his mother Mary was espoused to Joseph, before they came together, she was found with child of the Ruach HaKodesh. Then Joseph, her husband, being a just man, and not willing to make her a public example, was minded to put her away privately. But while he thought on these things, behold, the angel of Yahuwah appeared unto him in a dream, saying, Joseph, thou son of David, fear not to take unto thee Mary thy wife, for that which is conceived in her is of the Ruach HaKodesh. And she shall bring forth a son, and thou shalt call his name Yahushua, for he shall save his people from their sins. Now all this was done, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken of Yahuwah by the prophet, saying, Behold, the virgin shall be with child, and shall bring forth a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which is being interpreted, Yahuwah is with us. Then Joseph, being raised from sleep, did as the angel of Yahuwah had bidden him, and took unto him his wife, and knew her not until she brought forth her firstborn son, and he called his name Yahushua. Now John chapter 10, verse 22 through 30. And it was at Jerusalem the feast of the dedication, and it was winter. And Yahushua walked in the temple in Solomon's porch. Then came the Jews round about him, and said, How long dost thou make us to doubt? If thou be the Mashiach, tell us plainly. Yahushua answered them, I told you, and you believe not. The works that I do in my Father's name, they bear witness of me. But ye believe not, because you are not of my sheep, as I said unto you. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. And I give unto them eternal life, and they shall never perish, neither shall any man pluck them out of my hand. My Father which gave them me is greater than all, and no man is able to pluck them out of my Father's hand. I and my Father